Ron.
Hell yeah, motherfucker.
Movies with Ron.
Speaking of Die Hard 3, I always thought Jeremy Irons was too charismatic as the bad guy. Like, he was perfect as Hans Gruber's brother.
Uh-huh.
And I was kind of like, man, they should just let him go. Like, he did it.
Yeah.
Like, it was a nice twist. And, like, why did he have to go shoot down his helicopter?
I know.
Like, it was your first time seeing Jeremy Irons. Like, he was in foreign movies before that. I guess a lot of British stuff.
Yeah.
It was my first exposure to him.
He was in some...
And I was like, oh, man, cool bad guy. Outsmarting John McClane.
yeah, man, he did
Nice
it.
connection to the first movie. I was like, man, you don't have to crash his helicopter. It's all right.
Somebody had fun. Holy Toledo.
Well, it's Wall Street, sir. A lot of money. A lot of decision makers.
Hey, remember when we talked about that Arnold comebacks and stuff on social media?
Yeah.
I got something.
Okay.
It's a YouTube video, or some video he posted, about the Special Olympics.
I read it.
Okay? And some guy comments,
Yeah.
the Special Olympics make no sense. The Olympics are for the best athletes in the entire world to compete against each other to determine who is the best. Having retards competing is doing the opposite! Exclamation point.
I know.
Yeah. Now here's Arnold.
You know what? Have Rick read it.
All right.
No, he doesn't type with an accent. But there are certain words that he says that I believe people purposely write into script for him to say them. Like in Twins.
Uh-huh.
The sister's name is Marnie. Who
Yeah.
is named Marnie?
Money.
Marnie!
Yeah.
That is an Arnold word.
Yeah.
And it was purposely made up just for him to...
Agreed. Agreed.
Marnie! Okay, here it is. The Arnold. As stupid and evil as this comment is, I'm not going to delete it or ban you yet. Because it is a teachable moment. You have two possible paths ahead. Right now, I guarantee you that these athletes have more courage, passion, brains, skill, actually more of every positive human quality than you. So take that path. You could learn from them and try to challenge yourself, to give back, to add something to the world. Or you can stay your path and keep being sad, pitiful, jealous internet troll who adds nothing to the world, but mocks anyone who does out of small-minded jealousy. I know what you really want is attention. So let me be clear. If you choose to keep going this way, no one will ever remember you.
Bravo,
Right.
bravo. People were tweeting, see, that's why I love Schwarzenegger. He even knows how to crush internet trolls.
You have to crush them with my tank.
Speaking of Rick and his Arnold voice, we got a tweet from Sammy Sama, who requested that Rick do an entire episode in his Arnold voice.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. What do you think, Rick?
Well, Sammy, challenge accepted.
She said John Wick 2 had her rolling.
It shall be done. Yeah.
You're listening to Movies with Ron, the podcast where my older brother surprises me with a movie he saw because I don't go see him anymore. And he explains the whole thing to me from beginning to end. If you're listening right now, trust me, you'll like his versions better. It's okay if you've seen the movie. It's okay if you haven't seen it. The experience is unique. So just trust me. Hey, John Tesh has a podcast.
I know.
Yeah.
With like two other people?
Intelligence for Your Life.
Yeah.
Who's John Tesh?
He's the original Entertainment Tonight anchor.
Huh.
You know him from like episode 2 or 3.
Yeah. And then what happened?
God bless John Tesh. Come on, man.
Yeah. T-shirt slogan. I was thinking people should get on his podcast Twitter. Tell him Movies with Ron sent you.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Try and get. I wonder how many people it would take.
Movies with Ron sent me.
Speaking of which, hey, if you're listening, you like what you hear, if you're on iTunes, leave us a rating and review, and I'll read it on the air. I love reading the reviews. So show some love.
I'll show some love.
Hey, there's this thing. Remember Make-A-Wish Foundation?
Yes.
They have this Make-A-Film Foundation.
Huh.
So there was this kid who wanted to be a writer and director. His name is Anthony Conti. Anyways, he's in stage 4 cancer.
Oh.
Yeah. So they got like a crew together.
Yeah?
Yeah, and he wrote a zombie movie called The Black Ghiandola. And I'm not sure which country he's from, but anyways, J.K. Simmons is in this movie.
Wow.
Johnny Depp,
Yeah. All right.
Laura Dern, David Lynch
Nice.
plays a guy called the Man in Black. Anyways, it looks good.
I want to see this.
Yeah. I'm going to put the links on the social media. It's something worth checking out. Or, just Google Make a Film Foundation. I think this is the first one they're doing.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I got some good news on a personal note.
Yeah?
I finally got my brother from another mother, Mike Breeding, to listen to the show.
Hey, all right. Thanks,
Yeah,
Mike.
Right? He says he loves it.
Oh, cool.
Doesn't love all the voices that I do, but you know what? I'll take it.
I love your voices.
Well, thanks, man. And thanks for listening, Mike. We love you, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you keep listening, Mike. Listen to the show.
Also, for the first time since starting this show, I have gone to see a movie that I was not doing a show for.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I ended up going to see Beauty and the Beast with Heather and her children.
All right.
How was that?
Did you have good family time?
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah.
Did not enjoy the movie.
Yeah. It's doing well, but not as well as everyone thought.
Yeah, no, it's dumb.
Yeah, there's issues. Told you. All them horns.
Oh, yeah, the Beast was a joke. And like everything, I don't know. The whole thing, everything just like went by so quick. Like they spend like 20 minutes of him like taking her prisoner, and then they fall in love in like 2 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, it was dumb, man.
Oh,
You know what
jeez.
was cool though?
What?
Ewan McGregor as the Candlestick guy.
Really?
Yeah, man.
I didn't think he had quite the voice as the animated character.
Oh, the animated character's voice is way better, but I will always enjoy Ewan McGregor singing.
Yeah.
Fucker can sing.
Hey, let me recommend a movie from 2013 starring Christian Bale and the recent Oscar winner for leading male, Casey Affleck. It's called Out of the Furnace.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. You ever seen that, Rick?
Not.
Oh, man. This movie, impresses you with being realistic.
Yeah.
It shows you, small town Yankee states.
Yeah, yeah.
Towns that are, supported by, the one mill, and every guy works at the mill. Christian Bale doing that, doing like a machinist kind of, those small working class movies every once in a while he does. This one, it tries to fool you. But by the time I get to the end of this movie, and I love this movie, but by the time you get to the end, so much has happened, that would never happen.
Yeah.
It is a fairy tale. It is so creative in what it's throwing at you. It's so many obstacles, not very realistic, but it fools you. It's a movie. It's I don't know. It's a great movie. Out of the Furnace,
Yeah. I can't believe you haven't mentioned Woody Harrelson yet.
Oh, dude. Woody Harrelson as De Groot. Such a tormented role.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is,
That is something to not miss.
oh yeah. He's like a Darth Vader, you can tell. Like he has a past. There could be another movie about a younger De Groot.
Yeah.
That's what's great about that character. But yeah, from 2013, Out of the Furnace. Check it out.
Yeah.
Ron, what'd you go see?
I went to see Life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to see this.
It was good.
Ryan Reynolds, Jake Gyllenhaal in the same movie.
Yeah, man.
The world didn't explode.
I know.
With talent,
Yeah. I was a little pissed off that they called this movie Life. It's already the name of another movie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was Martin Lawrence and...
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good movie.
That was a funny-ass movie.
It was like a old-timey prison kind of movie.
Yeah.
Like the 20s or something.
Had the late, great Bernie Mac
Yeah.
as Jangle Egg.
Jangle Egg, quit bitching, we want a job.
So you hate it when they do that with titles, huh?
I do.
You know, because you can't trademark or copyright a title.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? Why don't we just call it Life?
I'm hoping it has something to do with that alien or some shit.
Wasn't there a movie called Life already? And there's some guy in an office with a cigar going like, what?
We've all seen The Avengers. Remember Avengers
Yeah.
with Uma Thurman? Rafe Fiennes, based on that old TV show.
Yeah.
And
Sean Connery.
Yeah, he's the bad guy. He's like, controlling the weather.
Yeah. There is a new sci-fi movie coming out that looks just like it's like that movie 2012.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all about, in the future, we'll be able to control the weather. And there's just like this giant satellite in the sky that like dissipates a hurricane right there in front of your eyes. And it's like, wow. And then something goes wrong. And then the whole world gets horrible weather. Looks fucking ridiculous.
Oh, jeez. Remember Oscar winner for Best Picture with Matt Dillon, Crash. Remember that?
Yeah.
Ensemble cast.
Oh, yeah.
It was a pretty powerful movie.
Oh, yeah. It's a hard one to watch sometimes.
Ryan Felipe. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Felipe.
Felipe.
Tragic storyline with him. But before that, David Cronenberg made a movie called Crash.
Yeah.
Where two of my favorite actors,
James Spader
and Casey Jones, Mr. Elias Koteas.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get it on in that movie.
I know, man.
That is a fantastic movie, though.
Agreed.
The beginning with they're all just watching the crash. It's like a weird
Fetish.
Yeah. There's a 1955 movie called The Fast and the Furious.
Oh, nice.
Let's see. We got Frozen. We all know Frozen.
Uh-huh.
Disney shit. Ice. There's this horror movie called Frozen. Remember Open Water
Yeah.
with the couple trapped? Like,
Yeah.
they got left. There was a sequel where they just didn't have a ladder to get on their boat.
Yeah.
Frozen. There's a Frozen about 2 or 3 people stuck on a ski lift. It like stops at its highest point and
Yeah.
they're stuck there. Like they don't know what to do. Yeah.
That's fucking scary.
Yeah. I heard that was a decent movie. We all know Inside Out, another beloved animated film.
Yep.
Yeah. It's okay to be sad. There's an Inside Out starring Triple H, the wrestler.
Ooh.
And Michael Rappaport.
Nice.
I saw this. I was like, I don't need to bring this up, but people need to know about Michael Rappaport.
No.
He had a career as an actor. He was in a lot of stuff, but in every role, he's like this tall, pale, gingery guy who's like, he's like from Boston and he's like urban.
Yeah.
And
He was on Friends for a while.
oh God, every role he had, it seemed like he was the casting director's friend, and he just like got to walk on sets and be an actor.
Yeah.
It just didn't seem like,
All of his jobs were favors.
I don't know. Yeah, but
Yeah.
he's probably like a millionaire now, you know?
Yeah.
All that shit he did. There's Legend.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know which one people know more. The Tom Hardy movie about the gangsters. He's
Yeah.
like twins. Remember one of our friends said, "Hey, I saw Legend." And I was like, "Oh yeah, isn't Tom Cruise great?"
Tim Curry, huh? How about those horns? He was like, what are you talking about?
No fucking idea what I was talking about.
See, that's bullshit.
I know. One of my favorites, Running Scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was
Which
the
one?
original?
Which one is your favorite?
The new one with Paul Walker.
Fuck that.
That's like the only reason I like Paul Walker, because of that movie.
Hell no, man. Gregory Hines.
Yeah. Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal.
Yeah, that was a good movie,
Yeah,
man.
that was the 80s Running Scared. All right, last one. Taken. We all know Taken.
Yeah.
That shit with, what's his name?
Liam Neeson.
They're going to take you.
Liam fucking Neeson. In 1999, This is I want to see this movie. It's Taken from 1999, and it stars Dabney Coleman.
What?
Remember Dabney Coleman?
Love him.
Dude, great guy. Here's the synopsis. A kidnapped businessman, finding out that no one is willing to pay the ransom to save his life, befriends his aggressor.
That's
a movie.
Sounds awesome.
I want to see that movie.
I love Dabney Coleman.
Yeah.
So I did a little research myself, and there are 11 movies called Life.
Ah, shit.
Yeah. The first one was in 1928.
It's like you could call any movie Life.
I know.
Yeah.
One of them is actually called Horror, but it says it's a Spanish drama film also called The Life. Life, Whore, and Life.
I just figure if you run out of names for a film and there's a ship and it has a name, just name the movie after the ship.
Yeah. Event Horizon.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm sure there's more.
I heard something about Ridley Scott wanting to do like 5 or 6 other fucking alien films.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
I heard that.
What is the deal? Does he just not want Blomkamp to make that movie?
Yep, he is cock-blocking Blomkamp.
I don't know. I think he's just a crazy old man.
With money on the brain.
I don't think he's going to last through 5 more alien movies, so I don't think we got much to worry about.
Damn. It'll be okay.
He made The Martian. That's what I credit him for. That's a great movie.
I credit him for Legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, take us away.
All right. You ready, Rick?
Yeah, I'm totally ready.
Life on Movies with Ron.
So we start off with a trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Ah, shit.
Yeah. And this is actually the second time I've had to close my eyes and plug my ears.
Yeah. People, we're not doing it. We're not watching any more marketing for Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and neither should you.
Yeah.
Close your eyes, plug your ears.
You're also going to have to do some sort of humming, which I tried. First time I saw this or I almost saw it, was at Beauty and the Beast.
Uh-huh.
It's like I'm sitting there next to Heather and the kids, and that comes on, and I just start doing that, and I realize I can still hear the preview, so I have to like start humming, but quietly to myself.
That was
So I don't bother anybody else, you know?
out of all the humming, you picked the deepest one.
Yeah, I had to pick something that would like drown out my own hearing, but that no one else could hear.
It's like
Yeah, that is what I was doing. So then we get shots of space. Big, long, quiet, boring-ass shots of space. And then this little thing starts whizzing by, and it's a probe. It's like looks like a little satellite or whatever. Mm-hmm. Blowing through space, and then we see from its point of view, and it's heading into a meteor shower. Ting, ting, ping, pang, pong, pong, ping. And it gets knocked off course a little bit. Then we show up at the International Space Station, the ISS.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Mars Pilgrim mission. The Pilgrim is the capsule, and it is carrying rock samples from Mars. For some reason, there is heavy expectation that there will be evidence of life in these samples. Anyway, because this thing has been knocked off course, they're not going to be able to intercept it the way that they normally would have. And their star astronaut, Ryan Reynolds, is going to do a spacewalk and get out there and remote control the arm of the space station, and he's going to catch it.
Yeah.
Now, there was a shot of this in the previews where it's like spinning towards it, and then the arm just like catches it, and he's like, yeah, cue Instagram. Remember that?
Yeah.
They did not use that in this movie. I loved it when I found that out. Anyway, he's out there, and they're like, you better watch it. Whoa, it's coming, man. You get out of the way. And he's like, no, I got it. And it is coming so damn fast. It's like, if he doesn't catch it, he is going to die. And if he catches it, he's probably still going to die. Anyway, the thing comes, and he like moves the arm to grab it. And we see this from inside the space station, like in the windows with the other astronauts.
Is he holding the arm?
No, he's holding like a little remote control in his hand. So for some reason, he still had to be outside to do that. I don't understand why.
Okay.
Anyway, when this thing, he does catch it, but when he catches it, it like rocks the whole fucking space station. And you don't see that nice, cool little shot from the previews where it just, oh, boom, it stopped it immediately. Like it looked like he didn't catch it. Like it slams into the station and everything and it's all horrible looking. Everybody's on alert. And then he's like, yeah, I got it, baby. And the arm is holding it, but only by like one of its fins. So they tricked us with that preview shot.
Nice.
Yeah, that was good. So then their lead biologist, played by Arion Bakare, his name is Hugh. He is in this little lab that they have set up, but it's like quarantined. You know, only he can be in there, and it's all sealed. And he's going through the samples. And in the samples, like immediately in this movie, he finds a cell, like one single cell. And it's just like under the microscope, and it doesn't move. It's like dead.
Yeah.
And they're all like, oh my God, a cell, a cell. So he starts trying to wake it up. And he does this by like turning the temperature down, like 1 degree at a time. Nothing works. And then he's like, I'm going to readjust the atmosphere. I'm going to, less oxygen and more carbon dioxide. And he does that. And then it fucking moves. And it's like, oh my God. And they're all celebrating and everything. And he's like, you know what? We are looking at the first proof of life beyond Earth. This right here. And they are like so happy. Everybody goes crazy. And they're all laughing. He's like, oh man, it's beautiful. And then the title card of the movie shows up and it goes, life. So right after that, there's a live talk show happening on Earth where they're like letting kids from Earth talk to the astronauts. Anyway, they're introducing all the astronauts and stuff. And then the lady, the astronauts, there's only 6 of them. There's a British lady, a Russian lady, there's Hugh, then there's Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds, and then an Asian guy played by Hiroyuki Sanada, who played another astronaut in Sunshine.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, they talk about Jake Gyllenhaal, and they say that he's about to break the record for the most days spent in space, which is 400. And he, like, looks a little sick. But he's like, yeah, I'm doing good, you guys. All right, so they're doing this fun Q&A where they're asking all the astronauts, like, how do you go to the bathroom in space? And then Hugh is like, do we have a name yet? And apparently there was a big contest with over 11,000 schools on Earth. And Calvin Coolidge Elementary, somewhere, I guess, in New York, won. And they got to name the Martian that was discovered.
Oh.
And they named it after their school. They named it Calvin.
Nice.
And they, like, announced it in Times Square. Looked like New Year's Eve, you know. The entire world is all celebrating. For some reason.
Hey, you know.
Yeah, I guess.
First sign of life. Like, there's the word Calvin everywhere or something.
Yes. So then the British lady, I think she's a doctor, and she's checking out Jake, who is also a doctor. She's like, yeah, doctors never take care of themselves, so come on. And she's scanning him and stuff, and she's like, your atrophies have really accelerated, and you're pretty close to your radiation limit. Astronauts collect radiation just being in space. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Like staying in space forever you would just die eventually.
Jesus.
I know.
Even in a ship?
Yes.
Why the fuck are we doing that then?
I know, right? She's also then checking out Hugh, and we learn that Hugh doesn't have the use of his legs. And his legs are all like super skinny. And on Earth, he's in a wheelchair. But
Okay.
up in space, he can fly like a bird, he says. So it shows him, and it's like day 12, and he's checking out Calvin, which is just like some goop in a petri dish at this point. But remember, it started from one cell.
So it's just been growing?
Yeah, they were feeding it like sugar water.
Oh.
And keeping it in a Martian atmosphere. So it's growing a little bit, and he's analyzing these cells, and he learns that the cells are all simultaneously muscles, brains, and eyes. Like the whole thing.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for disaster.
I know. And he's like, oh man, it's just so amazing. And everybody's like, yeah. But they're watching from the windows. Like,
There has to be one guy who hears that and says, like, nope.
there is. It's Ryan Reynolds. Anyway, he's examining it in a box where he has to slip his hands into these gloves that are always part of the box.
Yeah, that's a big part of the trailer.
Yeah. And he's like moving it around with his finger, and it grows limbs, you know, little tiny little hair-like limbs, and it starts like playing with his finger. And they're like, oh, it's not afraid of you. And he's like, no, its curiosity outweighs its fear. And he is like totally drinking the Kool-Aid on this thing.
Yeah.
All right, so like I said, it like grows little tendrils when it needs to. And they're all laughing, and they're like, Hugh, you're going to be a daddy. And Ryan Reynolds is like, yeah, there's going to be a big custody battle over this one. And everybody laughed. So then they're all having dinner. The crew having dinner in a darkened dining room on their ship.
Yeah.
Nothing bad ever happened then, right? The Asian guy, Sho, is he's not at dinner. He's off on his iPad, Skyping with his wife who is in labor.
Oh,
so
wow.
he can like witness the birth. He comes out and he's like, hey guys, this is my daughter. And they're like, yeah, all right, man. Somebody was like, do they know who the father is? And he's like, fuck you. Anyway, the commander gives him the book Goodnight Moon as a gift. This isn't going to come into play later. So in the lab later, Hugh, he's got like a little safety rat, I guess. Like if there's radiation or something, if this rat dies, he's got to get out.
Yeah.
He just has a rat that's like strapped down to like a little plate.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Like it's not even in a cage so it can walk around. It's just like held down in bondage.
Jesus.
All right, so later Hugh is studying Calvin again, and you know his hands through the gloves in the box, and he is letting Calvin touch his gloved finger.
Yeah.
And it just looks like a little transparent leaf that's kind of blowing around. And it's caressing his finger, and it's a very beautiful moment.
Mm-hmm.
They all end up going to sleep in their fucking sleep chamber things.
Pods?
Yeah, they have pods.
Okay.
They like close like the ones in Aliens.
Oh, okay.
All right. And then some big fucking alarm goes off, and everybody goes crazy, and the alarm is coming from Calvin's room. Ryan Reynolds is the one who ends up going in to like shut off some valve because it's like blowing carbon dioxide out. And he comes out of the room and he's all shaken. And the commander lady is like, yo, whose fault is this? Who did this? And he was like, it's me. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. Like he's been studying it and concentrating on Calvin so hard that he's not thinking about the safety protocols.
Yeah.
And Ryan Reynolds like yells at him. He's like pissed off. He's like, man, I don't want to be anywhere near that thing.
Yeah.
You know? Come on, a 5-year-old kid could have seen what you did wrong. He's like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Anyway, because of that accident that happened, it momentarily changed the pressure in Calvin's box, and he died. And he's like unresponsive now. But they think that he's not dead, and he just went into his hibernation reaction, like obviously the first cell was when they found it.
Yeah.
So then Hugh gets the idea to try to electrically stimulate it. And they're all watching, and he's in there, and inside the box, he's got this little wand that will shock it.
Mm-hmm.
And he shocks it, and nothing happens, and he turns the voltage up a little bit, and nothing happens. And he keeps shocking. He's like, oh, man, no, it'll be fine, guys, it's just in a deep sleep. And he shocks it again, and it slams onto his glove, and it, like, grips his hand,
Oh, jeez.
like, really hard. And he's like, oh, hang on, guys. Something's happening here. And they're all like, oh, my God, what's going on? He's like, it's gripping my glove. They're like, well, how hard is it gripping you? It's like a firm handshake. And it's like, oh. Somebody's like, is the glove okay? Is the glove going to hold? And Sho, who I guess is the equipment dude, he's like, the glove will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have to keep this thing contained. Like, they have orders from Earth to not bring it back down to Earth, like, no matter what happens. Anyway, then it starts really crushing his hand. And it gets really hardcore. And now that's the scene in the preview where he's, like, panicking.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty harrowing. Like, it's, like, really, really gripping onto him. And then it starts breaking his fingers.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, God, kind of hard to watch. And he's just like stuck in there. He cannot get his hand out. It's crazy.
Jesus.
Ryan Reynolds is like, come on, let me go in there and get him. And the commander lady is like, no, man, sorry. He's got to deal with this himself.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, finally it lets go. And Hugh just pulls his hand out, and his hand looks like Deadpool's hand. That was all broken. Just like flopping around.
Yeah.
And he's in so much pain, he's in shock, so he just like kind of starts to float away into the middle of the room.
Oh, shit.
And they're like, oh my God. And then the glove goes inside out and comes out of the box. And you can see that Calvin is in there. And he's like testing the strength of the glove. And he's like trying to get towards Hugh.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like it looks like a little snowflake or a starfish. Okay? Just floating around. And they're like, whoa, 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 look at that. And yeah, it is trying to get out. Like it wants to get out. And they're like, oh, what about the glove? Is it going to hold? Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. And then Calvin like floats back into his little box, goes over, grabs the broken wand.
Oh, shit.
Snaps half of it off, brings it back out into the glove, and cuts through and escapes.
Shit.
And it's like, oh, shit. Remember, Calvin is all muscle, all brain, and all eye. Yeah, super starfish.
They're fucked.
Dude. So Hugh is passed out. Calvin is free and starts exploring the room, and all they can do is just like watch it. And it goes over and it finds the rat. It's like playing with the rat a little bit. The rat tries to bite it, and then he just like whoosh, grips all over the rat and then spreads himself all over it and digests it like really super fast. And he's clear, so we get to see that.
Oh, jeez.
Now Calvin is a little bit bigger. And as soon as they see that, Jake Gyllenhaal just opens the door and goes in to get Hugh. Because Hugh's just like floating in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
And, it's obviously going to try to eat him or something, right?
Yeah.
So Jake opens the door, goes in to get him. Ryan Reynolds follows him in. Jake is pulling Hugh out, and Ryan Reynolds is the last one out of the room. And just before he gets through the door, Calvin latches onto his foot. And that is that moment in the preview when Jake slams the door shut, and he and Ryan Reynolds are looking at each other through the glass. But Ryan Reynolds gives him a look like, yeah, okay, man. Yep, he's on my foot. It's good that you shut the door. It's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I understand what's happening. I'm gonna have to deal with this. And it's like, oh, okay. Because in the preview, you're like, oh, shit. Look like a death sentence, right?
Yeah.
So he looks at them and he's like, all right, what do I do? And they bring up this thing. I don't know if this actually exists, but somebody's like, get an oxygen candle and burn it off of your foot. And it just looks like one of those torches that they had in Alien 3. Looks like a flare type thing.
Yeah.
You turn it on and it gets really super hot or super cold. It's unclear which. But it does burn it. So it gets off of his foot. Like, that plan worked. And everybody's so freaked out. Reynolds just says, permission to kill this thing. And then the commander's just like, you know what? Okay, fine, kill it.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, how do I do that? And then Sho is like, use the incinerator. And he has to like talk him through how to pull the incinerator out of the cabinet that it's in. Like, it's designed to incinerate the sample if they need to. So he has to like pull it out of there and disconnect it from all these hoses so he can wave it around like a flamethrower.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. He's like shooting fire at this thing in a space station.
Yeah.
So it's like really fucking dangerous. Anyway, he keeps hiding and he is flaming it and it keeps running around. When I say running, I mean it's just like flying through the air. But it's running from him. And he is just having this huge fight with it. Just like blowing fire at it, and it's not working. Yeah. Then it hides in a little cabinet, and he's opening up the cabinet. He doesn't see it, and he's just like filling the cabinet with fire. Nothing burns. Everything's metal, I guess. And then he's like, all right, well, it's gone, And then we see it come down behind him, and so do all of his buddies. And they're like, it's behind you! And he turns around, and it latches onto his face and goes into his fucking mouth. And then we get this horrible sequence of Ryan Reynolds like forcibly swallowing this thing and then it like eating him from the inside out. And he is just like sitting there like kind of choking and staring at them, and then his eyes like fill up with blood, and all of this zero-gravity blood just starts, like, bubbling out of his mouth.
Shit.
And he fucking dies.
Yeah.
Yep. Good old Ryan Reynolds.
We still got Jake, I guess.
Yeah. The poor man's Ryan Reynolds. But anyway, man, it was sad when he died. So anyway, then the incinerator thing is still like floating around the room, and it's got its little pilot light going, and it sets off the fire alarms, which then immediately start sucking all the air out of the room to put out whatever fire it senses. And there are these little tiny vents in the ceiling. And then Calvin comes out of his mouth, and he's like a lot bigger. Now he's like as big as like a face hugger, I think. And he's just tentacles now. Like a ball of tentacles. And it starts going over to those little vents and trying to get out of it to escape the room. So then they have to like shut those down, and they have to do them one by one. And Calvin like keeps going to the next vent and the next vent, and they keep shutting it and shutting it and shutting it. Finally it gets to the last one, and it gets out of the room. And they're all like, fuck. So then it shows them wrapping up Ryan Reynolds in some gold foil to put him on ice. Anyway, also, I guess somehow during the fire alarm thing, they lost contact with Earth, of course. So now they're on their own. In order to fix the comms, Kate, the Russian lady commander, is going to have to walk outside and do something with it. This is where we learn from Kate that it was stipulated that absolutely under no condition is any Martian life to come back to Earth, even if that means all of us have to die.
Right.
And Jake did not know that, so he's a little upset. Anyway, she's out there, and she goes over to this the area right outside of that lab, and she's like, yeah, okay, so there's a problem with the coolant for the lab. I'm going to check it out. And she unscrews the valve and looks inside and sees that it's totally empty. She's like, how did we lose all this coolant? And they're like, oh, I don't know, I mean, it's just like an earth organism, it needs water and food to survive, so maybe it drank the coolant, And then Calvin comes out of there, comes out right at her, and looks like a big, huge starfish, and it just latches onto her suit.
Yeah.
And she's going crazy. She's still tethered to the station, though, okay? But it's like crawling all over her suit. It's weird. And it ends up breaking one of the coolant lines in her suit, so her suit starts filling up with coolant. Oh. Yeah. Before she drowns, she has to untether herself and like jump across the station to get to the airlock.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Jake Gyllenhaal is like suiting up to help her inside. So he gets into the airlock. She gets over to the door. Calvin is still crawling on her. And he's like, okay. And her suit is like, it's pretty scary. She's like about to drown. It's like bubbling in her helmet and everything. And Jake has to talk her through opening the latch. Like she has to turn her latch clockwise while he turns his counterclockwise. And he's telling her to do that. And she starts to do that. And then Calvin is like on her helmet, like looking in at her and everything. And, I mean, it doesn't have any eyes because the whole thing is eyes.
Yeah.
And then she starts turning her handle counterclockwise. And he's like, she's fighting me. She's fighting me. She's going crazy. Like, because she's drowning, maybe panicking. And then the other doctor chick behind him is like, Jake, no, she's fighting you on purpose. She's not letting it back into the station. And it's like, oh my God. And then she just drowns.
Oh.
And that was her sacrifice. So that now she could just float away in space with Calvin attached to her.
Yeah. And
eventually it would go into hibernation. Because it's trying to get back into the station because it needs, atmosphere. But it can survive for brief periods of time out in space.
Okay.
They talked about that while I was out crawling all over her. Anyway, she's floating away, and then Calvin just jumps back to the station. And it's like, fuck. So now it's crawling around on the outside, and they're like, all right, well, it'll eventually go to sleep, right? There's no way it can get back in? And then Show is like, the thrusters. It'll climb in through the thrusters. Everybody's crying because Kate just died. So they figure out by watching the temperature gauges for all the different thrusters, when Calvin climbs into one, the temperature will rise a little bit, so then they can just fire that thruster and like blow him away from the station, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Good idea. And that works. They keep trying to blow him off, but he will just fly over to another thruster and try that one. So they end up firing all the different thrusters a few different times. And then they realize that they have now moved themselves accidentally out of the orbit that they were in. And now they're on a course to descend to Earth. So they got to correct it. But they're so low on fuel now, they have to let Calvin back in. Because if they blow him off again, they won't have the fuel to get back into space.
Right.
So then they watch the temperature gauge of the thruster that Calvin is entering, and then the temperature goes back down, so he's back inside. Anyway, then they correct their course, and they're back on a safe orbit. So now they come up with a new plan, and they're going to pick a room in the space station. They're all going to get inside of it, and then they're just going to completely shut down the life support for all the other rooms, and basically turn them into outer space.
Right.
All right, so no life support, no life.
There you go.
So they're doing that, and they're all getting ready. They're all pulling everything that they need into that room, and it's that moment, it's that sequence from Alien 3 where they're laying the trap, and painting all the flammable shit all over the place.
Montage
Dun, 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 dun.
and stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, we do get one little jump scare of Hugh he's floating down a corridor, and then we see Calvin just fly across the screen behind him, and he turns around and looks, and he doesn't. Okay, it's not there. All right, so he just keeps doing what he's doing. And then they enact the plan. They're in there, and they start shutting down all the other life support. And it gets a little cold, and they're all just holed up in there. And they start getting all sad and talking about all their dead friends. And Hugh is talking about Calvin, and he's like, he doesn't hate us. He's just trying to survive. And unfortunately, to do that, he's going to have to kill all of us. And he's getting all weird, and then he just kind of fades into unconsciousness. And they're like, whoa, what's going on? He's all weak.
Yeah.
And he's just dying. Then his heart flatlines, and they have to, revive him with the paddles and everything. And it's a pretty scary scene, because he's going to die. And then they do revive him, and they get a little heartbeat. Beep, beep, beep. Then they look down at his leg, and his pant leg is moving. They pull his pant leg up, and Calvin is latched onto his leg under his suit.
Jesus.
And remember, he can't feel his legs.
Right.
So the whole time, he never knew it.
Yeah.
And now he looks like a big fucking squid with wings. Because he's been feeding on Calvin's little chicken legs.
Yeah.
So they have to pull Calvin off, and then he starts going crazy and attacking them and chasing them. All right? Now remember, all that's left now is Hugh, who is laying there just about dead, Jake, Sho, and then the British lady Miranda. Jake and Miranda get through this one little door, and they're like, come on, Sho, come on. And he realizes that he doesn't have enough time to get to them, so he just diverts a different direction, and then Calvin chases him. He goes and locks himself into one of the sleep chambers. And then Calvin just latches onto it, and is we see that Calvin actually does have a head, but he doesn't have any eyes.
Okay.
But he's sitting there looking like he's staring at him with his head. I thought that was a little dumb.
Yeah.
And then anyway, he just starts to crush the sleep chamber, and all the glass starts to crack and splinter and stuff. Anyway, then Calvin just kind of gives up and floats away from the sleep chamber. Right then we cut to Jake and Miranda, and they actually went back for Hugh, and we see Hugh dies in their arms. And then they hear a little beep, and they look at their, screens or whatever, and they can see Calvin moving around the space station. And they can see him because he must have swallowed this little magnetic locator thing that was on Hugh's leg. And Jake is like, we can track him. And for the first and only time, we see Calvin vision. And it's just it looks like it's underwater, and he's just moving through the station. There's no reason for that sequence. Anyway, he's flying through the station real fast, looking for humans to kill. Kill all humans. He ends up wandering back into that room, and he finds Hugh just in the middle of the room. He's kind of tethered to it, almost like he's bait.
Yeah.
And he just starts eating Hugh's face. And then Jake and Miranda trap him in the room.
Okay.
So it's yeah, cool, they did it, And once they do that, he flies over to the door, and he's sliming around on it, trying to figure out how to get out of the room. Then there's another beep happening, and they look on the, the scanners or whatever. And they're like, collision imminent. And there is another ship flying up to them.
What the fuck?
Because they had, when they lost communication, sorry, I forgot to tell you this, they tried to send an SOS. And they were like, oh, how much of it got through? We don't know. So they didn't even know if Earth got the message.
Yeah.
Damn.
All right. So a rescue team is arriving.
Right. So Jake is like, all right, cool, they're here to help us. And then Miranda's like, nah, man, they're not. And he's like, what do you mean? Well, remember how I told you it was stipulated that no Martian life could come to Earth? And he was like, yeah. She was like, they're here to push us out into space.
Oh.
And he's like, fuck. So it just, it comes and it docks onto the station, and then it just starts firing its thrusters. We never actually get to see if there are even any people in it. Because it's like this weird little shuttle-looking thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was remote-controlled or not. Anyway, this is the final protocol if the life ever went hostile and took over the station. They're just going to push it off into deep space, away from Earth. Meanwhile, Sho is still in his little pod, and he sees that the ship is coming, and he's like, oh man, a rescue team is here. So he gets out of his pod, and he starts going for this new shuttle. He does not know that Calvin is trapped in this other room, which he has to go through to get to this new shuttle.
Ah, shit.
They can see on their scanners that Sho is moving towards Calvin, and they're like, oh shit, he thinks it's a rescue, and he doesn't know where Calvin is. So they start going to try to intercept him, and they get there too late. He gets into the room with Hugh in it. He sees Hugh in the middle of the room, and he just passes by him and goes over to the next airlock. And he's trying to open it, and then down behind him comes Calvin, the big jellyfish squid thing. And then we just cut to Jake and Miranda finally getting into that room, and now they just see Sho locked in combat with Calvin down at the door. And he was trying to force the door open, and he ended up getting it open a little bit, which starts all this air to rush out of the space station because he was trying to open up the next shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's a breach, and we get the whole whoosh, air sucking and stuff. So now there's this big, huge breach happening, and they're all getting ready to be sucked out into space with no suits on. And then they form a human rope to get to Sho. They grab onto Sho, and then Calvin, he starts climbing up the human rope right towards Miranda. So then at the last second, Sho lets go of Miranda and then grabs onto Calvin. And then it gets sucked out. But Calvin was able to get off of Sho and stay in the station.
Ah, shit.
Yeah, like the whole thing was for nothing.
Every attempt has been for nothing.
Yes. The damn thing is too smart. Anyway, at that point, that new rocket ship that flew up to push him out, it blows up a little bit, and then it flies around and crashes all the shit all over the station, and everything is just fucked. Jake and Miranda were able to get out of that room, so now they're okay, but they're probably going to die in space, even if Calvin doesn't kill them.
Yeah.
So now they are just held up in some little room, and it's getting all cold because all the life support is down and everything, and Jake figures out that has now put them into another decaying orbit, and in 39 minutes, they are going to fall to Earth. And Miranda's like, we're not going to survive that, but Calvin probably will. So we got to do something, man. And he's like, yeah, well, there's nothing we can do. We're fucked. And it's pretty sad. And it's all cold and quiet. And then Jake finds the book, Good Night, Moon. And he starts reading it. And he's like, good night, Moon. Good night, nobody. And it's like, oh, shit. This is a pretty hopeless spot in the movie. Perfect spot for a fucking baby to start crying in the theater. Instead of taking the baby outside, we just hear a whole bunch of shh, shh. Like they don't want to miss the movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's still reading it, and he's like, good night, air. Air? Air, that's it? And he's like, well, we know that Calvin can survive in space for a little while, but he wants air. Like, he's going to be looking around for oxygen. So here's my new plan, okay? We got 2 lifeboats on this space station, okay? A and B. Mm-hmm. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take one of those oxygen candles, and I'm going to go out into the station, and I'm going to light it off, and I'm going to lure him to me, okay? Mm-hmm. Because all the oxygen that comes off of these little torches that they have. I'm going to lure him into lifeboat A. You're going to go into lifeboat B, okay? Mm-hmm. You're going to launch and go back to Earth. I am going to be stuck inside of the other lifeboat with Calvin, and I am going to just hold onto the stick, fire the thrusters until I am out of orbit, and I'm just going to float away into space and die with Calvin.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, you can't do that. It should be me. It should be me. I was the one in charge of not having any life come back to Earth. And he's like, yeah, but you know what? No, you're not a pilot. I am. And you know what? I hate Earth anyway. I don't want to go back there with all those 8 billion motherfuckers. I belong up here. Because remember, he was up most time spent in space.
Yeah.
Because he, didn't want to go back.
Ah, okay.
All right, so then they start the plan, and he goes out there, and he is like Dallas crawling through the vents with his torch, looking for the alien.
Yeah.
And then, yep, he finds him, and he just lights off this O2 candle, and then Calvin just flies over to the candle and just grips around it and just starts absorbing all the oxygen. So it's weird. He's not going after Jake. He's going after this torch. Uh-huh. So then Jake leaves that room, goes over to the door, and then lights another candle. So when the first one burns out, Calvin just flies to that one, and he's able to lead him through the station with a trail of marshmallows.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? So then Jake gets into lifeboat A, and he's strapping himself in. And, here comes Calvin. There's no more torches, right? So he just comes in and just latches onto Jake. Uh-huh. And, he's in his spacesuit now, because he's getting ready to go off and die. Anyway, right then, he does light off his very last candle. Calvin latches onto it, and then he shuts the pod door. He's looking out the window over at the other pod, and he's like, come on, go. Go, Miranda, launch. Shows her in her lifeboat, and then they both decouple from the station. Mm-hmm. And they start to fire their thrusters and everything, and Miranda starts recording her last will and testimony.
Yeah.
In case she doesn't make it. And she's like, yeah, just so you know, Earth, Calvin got out, killed everybody. Everybody gave their lives to try to keep him away from Earth. So if any Martian life ever comes to Earth, please use all available resources to destroy it. I'm beginning my descent now. And then we see Jake, the last candle goes out, and then Calvin grips onto him. So he's firing his thrusters, and he had told Miranda, all I have to do is hold the stick down long enough to get out of orbit. Mm-hmm. Okay? And then it doesn't matter what he does to me. And that's what he does. And, from the outside, we can see both life pods flying around next to each other and stuff, and then they split off and they go their separate ways. And Miranda's life pod starts going into the atmosphere, and it's little trail of fire and everything. And then we see Jake. The last candle went out, and he's holding the stick down. And then Calvin grabs onto his hand, then grabs onto his helmet, and is squeezing him and everything. And then Jake Gyllenhaal is just fuck this. And he just opens up his helmet. And then he stops struggling, and he just sits there and stares at Calvin. Calvin gets up in front of his face and then flays his body out like the fucking Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park. Uh-huh. And Jake Gyllenhaal just takes it like a man. And you see his pod flying off into space. Uh-huh. And then we cut to Miranda's pod, which is entering the atmosphere and burning up and stuff. And it gets through, and then her parachutes launch, and she floats down into the ocean. And then we see some old Asian fishermen throwing their nets in the water, and then this fucking space pod lands in the water. Yeah. And then it's got its orange floaties and everything, and they go over to it. And they're looking at it, and they go and they look in the window, and in the window you see Jake Gyllenhaal covered in all of this transparent crap that is all Calvin. And he's been like, he ate him and a little bit, and he's kind of expanded. And Jake Gyllenhaal is actually still alive, and he's looking at the window. He's looking at these Japanese fishermen, and he's screaming, "No, no, no, no!"
Fuck.
And then we see the other pod flying away into space, and inside is Miranda freaking out and fucking screaming because something went wrong with her pod, and she ended up flying off into space.
Oh, Jesus.
And now we see the fishermen like, "Yeah, let's get him out of there." And they open up the door, and then it just cuts to an aerial view of the fishermen, and then this pod, and other boats coming in to help them. And then the credits roll.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I loved it. I loved that ending. I kind of saw it come a little bit, but
Really?
It was great.
Good job, man.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, yeah.
So there you have it. Life on Movies with Ron.
That's not what I imagined happening.
Yeah?
Well, first off, the alien's justified because he shocked it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that started everything. I thought they were going to find Goodnight Moon, and they were going to read it out loud. And since the alien is just an infant, it would calm down and
No.
kind of revert back in on itself and put it in like a peaceful state.
I'm glad that didn't happen.
And back to one cell.
What the fuck?
Goodnight Moon. Like that's all it took.
Yeah.
It didn't take violence. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something, I don't know.
You silly bastard.
That was pretty good.
I think this film might be a little bit an allegory about, they shocked it, so it's their fault.
Yeah.
You're both wrong. It's an allegory about life. No matter what you do, you're fucked.
You got to open your visor and take it like a man.
Damn right.
All right, folks. Like I said earlier, if you're on iTunes, leave us a rating or review. Got a Facebook group, Instagram, Twitter, @MoviesWithRon. It's been fun.
All right, love you.
Take care.
Movies with Ron.
Nah, don't worry about it.
I'm a little worried about it. What about you?
What are we talking about?